Hi Kiwi listeners, Let's Learn Sumo. I'm Clayton, welcome to the podcast. You can join me on X or Instagram at Let's Learn Sumo and YouTube where this is restreamed in audio. There are also playlists on YouTube where you can find the old lessons, including a lesson on dead body if this is your first time. So this is a bit of an extra special episode to further expand on the explanation of the Onosato versus Ura bout from day 3 last night at the Sumo. So a bit of a recap on the bout. Remember, Ura dived low at the tachiai, tried for a belt grab unsuccessfully on the yokozuna, and then drove forward as Onosato went on the retreat. Now what everyone did miss was there was a bit of a hair pull by Onosato on Ura as he retreated, but it was in close to the body and only really visible on slow motion replay. As ask Asakoryu about being disqualified for a hansoku move though, a bit of a hair pull there. Now, as Onosato tries to pull Ura down, he's being pushed by Ura, but Ura stays on his feet. Now, as Onosato tries to dodge to his right to escape the attack, Ura stays up. Onosato then charges in to the off-balance Ura, but Ura is able to turn to his left, grab Onosato's leg at the knee, and lift hard as Onosato charged forward. Now, Onosato fired forward, ended up landing on his hands outside the ring. At the same time, Ura is in a crouch, getting lower as he's pulling the knee and he gets knocked back further into that crouch. Now, this is the point. Ura was on his feet, he was inside the ring, and he initiated the move which caused the yokozuna to fall. The Gyoji pointed the Gunbai fan to Onosato for the win. Ura was furious when he looked pretty furious when he saw that. So the Shimpans, the judges around the outside of the ring, they called a mono-e, including the Oyakata for Nishinoseko, who stood silently during the deliberations on the dojo as the TV camera focused on him. Now remember that the Shimpans are connected to another Shimpan judge who sits in a video replay room with access to all the video slow motion replays. Now, once they'd finished the mono-e, the Chief Shimpan then announced to the crowd, as I said last night, that they called a tori naoshi because both wrestlers landed at the same time, so they would need to do a rematch. Now, as I said last night, what the Shimpan said to the crowd that they landed at the same time was clearly incorrect if you see the pictures online on my Insta page or my X page. Ura was clearly still in play, still above the surface of the dojo when Onosato had clearly touched down outside the ring. Now, after last night's actions and post my episode being posted, the Chief Shimpan, Tadagawa, faced the media who questioned him over the tori naoshi call. And I quote of Takadagawa, I should say, "It looked like Onosato's hand touched down, and Ura's body died at the same time. So he decided to give it a second go. In particular, the video room's opinions were divided. When we can't tell, we call a tori naoshi, a rematch. It was Ura who applied the technique, but Onosato's mass pushed him down. Then he fell on his butt. Onosato's hand touched down a moment earlier, but Ura's body was already dead." End of quote. At this point, and to their credit, the reporters at the media conference protested and said, but weren't Ura's feet both firmly planted on the ground and of course within the dojo when Onosato touched down? To which Tadagawa replied, "When we say dead body, it means being in a position from which recovery is not possible, and you can't keep fighting. At that point, the match is over. It was a split second, but we judged that the dead body and the hand touchdown were at the same time. When Ura attempted his technique, he was crushed by Onosato's inertia and fell on his behind. Had he fallen forward, he would have won." End of quote. Now, take that explanation for what it is. There is an explanation, as I said, of the dead body rule as you go to my YouTube playlist or search dead body on my podcast. That being said, I only said last basho from a Japanese sumo perspective that they will always favour the yokozuna. Now, he's earned that privilege and they apply it fairly regularly. However, I think sometimes they do apply it to Onosato a little bit more liberally than certainly applying it to Hoshoryu, and that is the perception. Now, there are some common dead body rules which apply and have applied to Ura's sumo in the past, when he jumps and is airborne going backwards outside the ring as his opponents fall. We understand that concept, we've discussed it before. We also understand falling outside the ring at the moment of someone touching down, or their feet converting to touch the top of the foot rather than just the sole of their feet, as happened to Wakamoto Haru in the previous match with Ozeki Korizakura. He was judged dead body in that fight by the Shimpans in that mono-e. That's fairly clear. What is not clear, and what's the source of this controversy, is the highly subjective and perhaps a little bit unfair manner in which they judged the dead body on Ura. He was on his feet, as I said, he was within the ring, he was the aggressor and initiated the move, which is a big thing in how they judge these decisions. As the Shimpan said, his style of sumo, however, that they all know, is that he's flexible, he moves in ways other sumo do not, yet they appear to give Ura no quarter whatsoever in his excellent move to beat the Yokozuna by Ashitori, a leg grab. Now, the Shimpan in the announcement also made it even harder when he announced to the crowd after the mono-e that they had touched together. Now, to me, that's a rather silly statement without adding context, and it adds to the controversy. It's clear that they did not touch together. So the key decision here in their decision, and a very divided opinion among the judges, was that Ura was going backwards at the time of crouching, causing him to be dead body. Now, it's just my opinion. I can't agree with that, and I think it's just my view that Ura was deserving of that win. But that's just my view, and one of the vagaries of sumo judging in a very closed sport and a very subjective sport. So what do you think? Was it a win? Was it a tori naoshi? Drop me a comment on Instagram or YouTube, and we'll talk tonight after tonight's action, folks. Hakioi, let's learn sumo.